This video segment details diversification, both forms related and unrelated, and I'll provide two corporate examples on how this can work. You might remember that diversification can take one of two forms: geographic or going global, or product diversification, and that's what we're talking about right here. Product diversification of the unrelated or related form. To illustrate, you can take any business. Any business has the choice of diversifying its portfolio. If the business decides to acquire or invent or otherwise create other lines of business that have many linkages, and linkages here means commonalities or shares common threads with the current product line. If a company gets involved in other businesses with those similar links, it is deemed to be in a related diversifier. Now, an easy to understand example would be that of Coca-Cola, a manufacturer of bottled soda. When they decided to get into the bottled water or Dasani business, that's clearly related diversification, selling a similar product with many links to many similar customers. For the purposes of this video, we're going to take a look at the Smuckers Company and some fairly recent related diversification activity they've engaged in. A business could also delve into businesses that have absolutely nothing to do with their current businesses. This is the polar opposite, of course, of related diversification, and we call that unrelated diversification. And a textbook example of a company who's very, very successful at being an unrelated diversifier is the General Electric Company. To further illustrate the concept of links that I just talked about, links is really better defined as strategic fit. Is there a strategic fit between the focal firm who's diversifying and acquiring or inventing or creating a new product line? To answer that question, if there's a strategic fit and therefore are there linkages, you take a look at the focal company and the company or the business line that it's entering into by virtue of diversification. The question then becomes, do the value chains, and each company does have a value chain that is somewhat similar from raw materials all the way through end consumer use, can they share activities? Can they share technology skills? Can there be cost reductions by merging together sales and marketing, for example? Can there be a brand name collaboration among any of these facets of the value chain? If the answer is yet, then strategic fit is deemed to exist, and in that case, the merged firm or acquired firm or newly formed firm with the extended portfolio, they can do together better sharing the value chain than they could do standing alone without sharing each other's activities. The Smuckers Company is the company that we're using as an example here. In 2008, the Smuckers Company, who of course is famous for their jellies and jams, also Jif peanut butter, bought from Procter & Gamble, acquired from Procter & Gamble, their Folgers line. The Folgers line includes not only the classic coffee, but a lot of convenience coffee type of beverages as well. What's the common link here? Well, they are convenience foods for the household, and Smuckers has been noted to be very profitable and very successful since they acquired Folgers. It fit and it seemed to work well, and it has worked very well to date for their bottom line. Now, if you superimpose this acquisition over the value chains that we presented 2 slides ago, you can see how this works. The Smuckers organization who acquired Folgers is now able to share supply chain activities going back to raw materials. They can share R&D between the two organizations instead of having standalone R&D departments. Sales and marketing can also be performed in one central location as opposed to two. So a lot of fat is cut out of the individual value chains, and together it's a more streamlined process. Thus, the Smuckers acquisition of Folger has been a related diversification which has been very, very successful. Now, we switch gears quite a bit when we talk about unrelated diversification, because unrelated diversification would not show much of a fit on the value chain. And the reasoning behind unrelated diversification goes back to portfolio theory. And when I say portfolio theory, I mean the holdings of stocks and bonds. What would your financial advisor advise you to do? Well, clearly, if you were getting into the market for the first time, your advisor would say buy a number, some undefined number of uncorrelated stocks. And the relationship goes like this: the more stocks you buy up to some theoretical point, your average return is going to increase up to that theoretical point. And the reason it increases is because you've diversified away your risk. Because what your investor will have told you to do is get into quality stocks that are in a number of different industries that really have nothing to do with each other. And if you do this and buy stocks according to this strategy, then when one or two stocks are down, hopefully 3 or 4 stocks will be up. And that's what reduces your risk, thereby increasing your expected return on your portfolio. That's portfolio theory. But it translates very nicely into unrelated diversification. The only thing it changes here is this axis. And this axis just then becomes simply the number of uncorrelated business segments. And so now we take a look at General Electric, our successful unrelated diversifier. And General Electric, if you didn't know, is a conglomerate which is in many business segments, many more than we can possibly cover in this slide. Of course, they probably were first made famous for appliances, light bulbs, etc. They've diversified into consumer finance, also business finance. They're involved in aviation, many products for that industry, also for the railroad industry. They're involved in water purification and wastewater treatment. And they're also very successfully involved in healthcare. In fact, they're very successfully involved in a lot of these areas. But what General Electric realizes that if one of these segments happens to be down, then quite possibly one or more of the others can help pull them up. Therefore, in the General Electric portfolio, their uncorrelated business segments, being in all these different and many, many more industries, increases their average return because it diversifies away their risk.